So good evening, Marc Lowe. I just recorded 2 talks with a blank wall behind me. I thought it's kind of boring, so I changed my position. And actually, I think I might just sort of do a new talk to discuss some of these topics here. And so the first thing I want to talk about is a new release coming out. It's called Angels of Chaos. And what it is actually a number of projects, things I've been working on since last year, post Phantoms. Phantoms was the last release of last year, 3 tracks. Since releasing that, I've released the 2 Bowie tributes. Today, actually, I released a new one. Today is the 48th, I think, anniversary of Station to Station. So I released an EP called After All, The Madman, and it's 2 acoustic versions from 1970, Men Who Sold the World, All the Madmen, and After All combined with Station to Station. Anyway, and I did We Miss You, Spaceboy, which was released on David Bowie's, what would have been his 77th birthday. But the next release, and the first all original release of 2024, Angels of Chaos. The project started actually as a no-name project. I mean, I sat down in my bed with a number of gadgets, my calculator pad, which is right in front of me here. Actually, it's kind of stuck to the floor though. This thing gets stuck to the floor. My Korg, I can't even pick it up. Yeah, this guy, right? So I was playing around with this and my little Castle noise synth, and what you hear in the background now is one of these tracks that was created with this, and this will be on the Angels of Chaos. This is actually the Angels of Chaos Bricolage. I'm going to talk about bricolages as well today in this talk tonight. So this started the project, and I played around with it. I made different versions, different mixes, did different things with it, and I created some other tracks using the calculator, using the synth, and then I started layering them, adding guitar improvisations with the acoustic, using my slide, shaker, improvised spoken word vocals. I started putting improvisational live recordings from last year as This Dark Shroud, but really no longer This Dark Shroud, just improvisations basically. And putting them in the background along with the tracks, arranging them in different ways. So I had a number of tracks like this, and I created I compiled them and created an album I was going to call Tipping Point. It had some other material on it that won't go on Angels of Chaos. One was a long rant about war and killing, and it's kind of political, which was actually spoken word in Japanese, and it was like 25 minutes long, so it's not going on Angels of Chaos. I might release it sometime somewhere, we'll see, but right now it's on the shelf. It's a B-side, it's a long B-side. So Tipping Point, and I also did a fairly long guitar improvisation, which will go on the album. It's now renamed. It's a Wood, Metal, Earth, I think that's the order. Wood, Metal, Earth. Guitar improvisation with my Ibanez guitar, actually the big guy up here, which is my older acoustic, which is what I used to record The Way Out Is In LP in 2022. And anyway, so Tipping Point, and then I continued making material, and I did a series of ambient, what I guess you might call ambient tracks without beats, hardly any beats. I did some other shorter pieces with beats in them, such as Scratch Kick Play, which has not been released yet anywhere, I don't think, which has kind of breakbeat type things in it, and at the end it fades to piano. And more recently I did this piece that I published on YouTube for Sakamoto Ryuichi, which is actually was not a tribute to Sakamoto Ryuichi per se in the beginning, but it was his birthday. I realized it, and it was doing a piano improv, so I put a sample of his voice in it. I've since rearranged it a bit, and that's going to go on the album, Symphony of Glass. I also went back and remixed some older things, like much older, like from 2018 or so. One is only 3, and I re-entitled it 3. It's totally different. There's no beats in it. It's very ambient and abstract now, and some other things. Like I went back and sort of rearranged them. There's also a version of People on there, which I re-recorded last year for acoustic and voice. But I did a remix of it as an experiment because I had the vocal track recorded separately in Logic. So I made it into an ambient track using the vocals as is, more or less. I played with the mix a bit, but basically, and an ambient backing to it. There's a Broken Sky is on there, which is a piece that was based on the Nick Cave cover I did of Push the Sky Away. And it has no vocals in it, and it's totally rearranged with beats and stuff. It sounds totally different. So it's Broken Sky, and some other things. It's going to be, in the current rendition, 16 tracks, 2 hours, 12 minutes. It's a double album. If it's on a CD, it's 2 CDs, over an hour each, kind of thing. That's the concept. It's like a long soundtrack. And I'm playing the Bricolage version right now. This is actually one of the tracks on the album you're hearing. In the Bricolage version, there's no separate titles. There's just a title for the Bricolages. The 2 70-minute Bricolages. The first is Angels Are Listening. The second is Angels Are Watching. Now, Bricolage, I'm considering maybe releasing on YouTube as a preview of the album. Bricolage means that I took the tracks and I layered them like a DJ, kind of like one flowing into the next. As you'll hear, this is the end of the track. It's going to flow into the next track. But they're all on single tracks. So it's one long track of 70-some minutes with some number of pieces. This is wood, metal, earth now. With the guitar improv, you hear how that flowed in. And there's also some palimpsest, which is taking 2 or more tracks and layering them at the same time so that there's 2 things going at once or 3 things going at once and mixing them differently to create palimpsests at times. So this is a separate project. Why did I do this? And this goes to the next thing I want to talk about. My most recent upload, it's actually 4 uploads, but I put them in one folder together, are the Bricolages. Inner Worlds Collide, I named that series. If it were a CD or a single release, it's Inner Worlds Collide, Bricolages. From 2020 through 2023. That's 4 years, right? 2020, 1, 2, 3. I want to talk about these Bricolages. Putting the new work that's coming out aside for a moment to talk about the Bricolages. The Bricolages, which goes up through the end of last year, it's basically my history, my personal history, you could say, in sound and music, since coming to Tokyo, but particularly from 2020, from COVID onward. And why did I make that choice? And what is included, and what is this series about, and why is it, to me anyway, so important as a document of not only the music I made, but in some sense, my past, my history, up till recent times. It's like a diary in music. Last year, actually, I did an essay called Without End or Beginning. Like I had an album without beginning or end last year. And I flipped that on purpose. And that discussed in text, in writing. I went to Brown University for creative writing, so I'm a writer as well as musician, if you will, in some sense. Let me turn this down a bit. Is that maybe too loud? It's all right. Because I can't change the level after I've recorded. So let me turn that down a bit. So, the essay deals with the bands I was in, the positive and not so positive aspects of being in a band or in bands. Experience I had with a producer for 3 weeks, only 3 weeks, but it was a big event in my life. Made me realize a lot of things. And beyond that, and then talking about my, how I developed my sound and working in Logic, collaborations, Laughing Moon project, this Dark Shroud project with Joe at one point, my friend Joe Shotoro, the bassist in Fukuoka, working with Sonny Yasuda, who's also on some of these bricolages, because we did a lot of work together, both in person, mostly via the computer, and also during COVID after I moved to Tokyo. So that essay deals with those things. And up through the summer last year, which is when I ended the essay and uploaded it to the blog weekly or daily. I think I put an entry up every day for several months. So that's the essay part, that's the writing part. So these bricolages then, not what you're hearing now, this is the new material. The bricolages that are on YouTube, Inner Worlds Collide, 001 through 004, 4 bricolages. Number 1, let me start with this again. Why did I start with 2020, COVID and beyond? I'm going to go back again before I talk about it to explain it. Pre-COVID. Actually, I moved to Tokyo at the end of 2019 in October. My contract at my university in Fukuoka had ended. I came here with a girlfriend, lived together for less than 6 months. COVID hit, we broke up. I moved out and I wrote the Untitled album, or I made the Untitled album. It was the first thing I was able to do. Early 2020, I was making music as normal, as I normally did and do. I went into a deep, deep depression after leaving and couldn't eat. Stopped eating, really. I lost a lot of weight. It's kind of like now, actually, I've lost a lot of weight, but that's for a different reason, I guess. Lost a lot of weight and was just sleeping all day and stuff. It was really bad. And finally, one day, I just was like, fuck this, I gotta make music. And I made the song Room, and that started the Untitled album and project. That album is very dear to me, although it's very dark. But it represents actually a period that I was able to get through, and it also represented a change in my music somehow, and in my way of thinking as well, although it was certainly a dark album. So the COVIDian years, Bricolage, number 1 of 4, starts with basically that period. But it's not just the Untitled album, and after I'd left and come to live here, actually, my life in Tokyo basically, in some ways, it starts here. Although I had 5-6 months prior to that living with a girlfriend. That is, again, where it starts, and there are some other albums. I worked on 2 other shorter albums, Self-Control, Jishuku, which is staying at home during COVID and being a good boy, which I was, but I was a very depressed one, and I made a lot of music dealing with those themes. Also, I did a collaboration via the computer with Takeshi Goda, his stage name. During the pandemic, we did an EP together called, we called ourselves Lower Than God, Lowe and Goda God. And that was basically instrumental with beats and things. I produced it. His flute and noise toys, literally, these dolls he used that make noises and things, is on there. Some work with Sonny is on there. And the tetralogy of 2021, I used to have it up there on the wall. The 2021 tetralogy is represented 4 albums. Hope, Sun is Coming, Answers Inside, and Moment. And the various styles represented on those albums. The following bricolage, the second is 2022. It covers 1 year, 1 bricolage. That one deals with, so not quite post-COVID. I actually got COVID in 2022. It deals more with finding a way out of depression, sadness, trauma, grief, all those kinds of things, which frankly and truly I was experiencing living alone, isolating myself in a way. It was partly because of COVID. Actually, when I went out, I got sick of it, and I went out and went drinking with some strangers one night in a nearby city. That's when I got COVID. So I got Omicron. And there's a song on the album, the first album of the year, is Before I Had It, called Omicron. Okay. And The Way Out Is In. The Way Out Is In is the name of the album. That was a guitar improv I did at home. One night I was actually drinking, which is another thing. I've since quit alcohol, by the way. I was drinking, and I was feeling somewhat upset or somewhat just restless. And I picked up the Ibanez and did an improv, and that became The Way Out Is In. And it deals with kind of, you could say, Buddhist themes in some ways. How to kind of get out is by going inward and finding your light inside. Now, dealing with the search for light, major theme in starting with Untitled. There Is a Light is the final track on that. The rest of it is just pure darkness almost. Hope deals with this. The answer is inside. Hope and the answer is inside. 2 of the tetralogy. Sun is coming. That's also light. So The Way Out Is In has a track called Omicron in there. There's a long, dark ambient track. That's also on the Bricolage as a palimpsest with another piece from a later album that year. The World Was Not the Same. That album also deals with nuclear proliferation and what I was seeing happening, which of course it's happening now. It's gotten worse and worse, since the Ukraine war and now with North Korea and China-Taiwan tensions, all that stuff. So some political stuff. Kali Yuga, which is part of a 4-part series I did in 2022, which is a kind of instrumental noise pieces on there. Again, as part of a palimpsest with other things. And other things represented the Infinity for Beginners. I did a drum solo in the studio, is like in there somewhere. The song One Touch on my classical guitar. After I got COVID, I recorded that song. That's in there. Pieces from Dark Planet. There's a Jeff Buckley cover, You and I, where I changed the lyrics a bit. There's a bit of David Bowie homage in there. My performance of 5 Years in the Park, filmed by Akiko Honda, who I was working with at the time, in the soundtrack to that. So that again, it's my life, and it's when I listen to it, it's of course, I know exactly where those things come from, but I've documented those things, and you could maybe see or hear or find them. So that was 2022, and also the Ukraine war that year. So I did a long Ukraine piece. It's not on there, but on the Palimpsest. But there was a remix of that, or another version of that, and some of the samples on there. You can hear Putin's voice in the background talking about why he decided to invade Ukraine and having to do with NATO and the US and all that. It's a bit political. 2023 is split into 2 bricolages, 1 and 2, first half, second half. First half but it's the first 2 trilogies I did that year. I did trilogies in 2023. I also did for This Dark Shroud. That's a separate bricolage. It's not part of this 4-part series. I actually did a This Dark Shroud 2023 bricolage as well, but it's not posted now. So the first part is dealing with, I keep saying dealing with, the first trilogy was called Triad, and it was leading up to my 50th birthday, which is 2023, of course, February 26th. This year, of course, I'm going to be doing Angels of Chaos for my birthday. I was going backwards in time last year. I was looking to my past, and I was re-recording songs from the Glass Gecko days when I was a band leader and had written kind of simple, almost acoustic songs, and I re-recorded them using mostly the Ibanez. I had the Guild. Yes, I had the Guild, but I used the Ibanez purposely, because that was the guitar I had used in that band. And it has a little more, not echo, but volume or resonance, I guess you could say, than the smaller Guild I use, this one here, because a bigger body. So I use that to record. And so some of those songs are represented there. And then that triad continue with Without Beginning or End, which is a double length album, which also goes back to my past in different ways. Older recordings with Sonny I'd discover on my hard drive. This is the Surin flute that I started playing this year. This is also in the new material. Anyway, going back to the Bricolage for 2023, the triad. So again, revisiting older things. I revisited some things from the tetralogy and put my vocals in reverse or slowed them down and layered them in different ways. It's a very experimental album. Some of it's just ambient instrumentals, some noisier pieces, and so on. So some of those are represented, and some things from the third part as well. Abstract Distractions, also the Human trilogy, which is To Be Human, Humachinations, Beyond the Body. Those three were quite experimental in some ways, mostly instrumental. I did a new version, you could say, or a new version of one of the pieces that I had done with Sonny as a collaboration on Hope. Is happiness a verb? And it's called Happiness is Not a Verb. So that also connects with earlier work. And yeah, some sort of noise ambient pieces, many of them without beats from that series. Also Red Signals, which I did last year. There's some pieces from that on it. And I think that's mostly the first Bricolage from 2023. The second final Bricolage, so Bricolage 004, final Bricolage, the end of 2023. A lot of piano pieces. I was playing piano more for This Dark Shroud and also doing some albums with this, right here actually is the Korg 88 key I got. And so I wanted to use that, and I recorded some things using that. I used this for This Dark Shroud as well. And Solitude, the Solitude album. I did re-recorded the song Always, originally for my daughter, which I had done on guitar. Actually ends the second Bricolage from 2022, the acoustic version. I had re-recorded that year. I did a piano version with no vocals, based on the chord progression. That's on there from Solitude album. And some more abstract things with beats, and also some live collaborative things. I had done Kata Kamui, who plays a kind of ambient guitar. We did a live collab. I put part of that in, and that flows into another collab I did with Akira Naito late last year, calling it Shunyata as a project name, although it's officially not really exactly. It might be. We're going to do it again. We haven't done it again since, or we haven't had a chance to do it again, but so it's like this. So it covers really, like I said, my history from 2020 COVID days all the way through the end of last year. New album, February 26th. The Bricolage version here, perhaps I'll be putting on YouTube as a preview, and also this has other things on it. It has some more recent live recordings mixed in that are not going to be on the album proper. And Broken Glass in my room, piano piece with no backing. I added a little bit of reverb to it and put that at the end of the Bricolage. That won't be on the new album. And I have another album of odds and ends that I'm planning on, but I won't talk about that now. So mainly the new album I want to talk about, 226, Angels of Chaos. The Bricolage version I'll put on YouTube within the next, I don't know, soon. And the Bricolage series, Inner Worlds Collide. It's mainly what I wanted to talk about in terms of music. I mentioned the essay. Final thing I want to talk about, I had a friend actually I was having a conversation with tonight, and this not frequently, but sometimes people wonder, I guess, or infrequently ask. Tonight, actually, on mail, a friend of mine who's come to my shows and sometimes watches my videos, maybe he's watching this, I won't use the name, but he asked me about, whether I was going to publish the essay from last year, whether I was going to publish. I just posted a new chapter. I started working on a book, book length essay, planned as like last year's, but this one mainly on this Dark Shroud. And I rewrote, not rewrote, but I wrote about my ex-band, Glass Gecko, again from another perspective as it related to the composition of Black Nail, the song that has the lyric This Dark Shroud in it, which is where the side project name came from. So that's why I did that. And I said, well, I went to Brown University for creative writing many, many years ago. I don't have connections with any publishers. I came here, I did bands, and etc. I also had some not so good experiences with music things that involved bands and disagreements, but also when money got involved and I'll produce you, and you can read about it in the essay if you like. I'll put the link. It's online, it's free in English. Without end or beginning is the essay. And then this year, just yesterday, I posted a chapter of the This Dark Shroud version book essay dealing with the band version of that story. So why don't I publish, or am I going to self-publish? I said, well, I did self-publish it. It's on my blog. But in book form, maybe, or officially. So I don't know. This goes back to my philosophy, and this is what I want to talk about of this, which is whether it's writing or music. My music, as many artists do these days, I suppose, they use Bandcamp or, indies. You do it yourself, DIY. But some bands actually make money doing this. Not a lot. Most don't make a lot. They all have day jobs. Like me teaching, which is not a day job for me. It's my career, and I love it. But I also do music, and I also consider myself a musician. And am I a professional? Well, yes, in terms of the music I make. It's not my career. I'm not making money from it, and it's not my goal to make money from it. And that is the question of why not, because of the negative experiences I've had, and knowing that when money gets involved, when egos get involved, it becomes commercial, and then rules start to come into play, and you have to compromise things and all of that. And I'm not willing to do that, and I don't want to do that, and that would make no sense to me to do that. Many people would say, but don't you want to get exposure? Don't you want to get recognized? And then you can do what you want to do later. And it doesn't work like that. David Bowie's a perfect example. He did what he wanted to do, you could say, toward the end. He did during 1995's Outside. 1995's Outside, he had recorded the Leon sessions, which were improvs, and the label said no. And to this day, it hasn't been officially released that way, because he could have released it himself. If it were me, right? It's go through the distributor and it's out. Who would listen to it though? Who's listening to it? But the point is, artistic freedom to me is more important than anything. So I said Bowie did what he, Black Star at the end. That album is not exactly commercial pop. It's more jazz than rock in some ways. It's somewhere in between, right? But they're vocal songs, and it's not an album of improvisations either, right? But anyway, well, the musicians did improv. It's jazz, but that's not my point. I love Black Star, by the way. It's one of my favorite albums ever made, as well as Outside and the sessions to Outside. And I like some of Bowie's more popular type stuff too. But this isn't a talk about David Bowie's career. Why don't I want to get involved in that side of it? Because it drags you down. Going back to Bowie for a moment, this is what I want to say. In the 80s, he kind of lost, right, focus. And he did, I'm not saying that material is not, there's some good material there, and there's some good stuff there, but he himself said, it was like, he lost himself, and he was really not happy. He by the time he recorded Never Let Me Down, he said that he had no interest in doing it. He was obliged by contract. He had a tour and he had to do it, and he lost it. And then he said, fuck this, and he did Tin Machine, that nobody liked except a few people, or relatively few people, right? And tried to change image. And then he did Outside, and then he started going more toward the commercial end of things again. My experience is just that when money gets involved, when business gets involved, it's not for me. I want to have the freedom to do this. I want to have the freedom to compile a double album and of totally abstractions and things that aren't going to sell. Bandcamp and using indies distribution. Okay, so I use Bandcamp, I use indies distribution, I'm using Symphonic now. I was on DistroKid using Symphonic. They're good people, I think. They seem to be. But here, like for example, I go to my Apple Music page, and because I'm not connected to a major, right, label or anything, I'm paired with similar artists that are like artists that are not similar at all. They're like hip hop artists. They're putting out like dance mix singles and just nothing to do with my music and not a similar style. And I'm not getting many hits on Apple Music. And it's all run by algorithms anyway. And so is YouTube, and so is a lot of these things. So, you know, how do you get beyond that? And so I don't want to kind of play that game if I don't have to. I'd rather take that time and energy to make the music and do what I'm doing, which is my satisfaction in life. And, you know, if you've heard some of my gloomier talks, because I have some really dark ones on the page, you know, it's like... you know, life is limited, time is limited, and I don't want to waste my time with that. So some would say, well, you know, but if nobody listens or they're not buying it, then what's the point? And the way I feel is like doing it is the point. And I do release it, I do share it. You know, some people do it and they just keep it quiet, and then, you know, after they die, it's like, oh my God, this guy had all this artwork. You know, kind of thing. Like, so, you know, these outsider artists, right? And Bowie was interested in outsider art. That's outside. The name of the album was Outsider Art. He was looking at outsider artists, and at the time interested. So I wouldn't call myself an outsider artist, and I think despite the abstract nature of some of the songs and things I do and improvs and stuff, I think it's not commercial by any means, but I do think it actually has structure in its own way, and that it's not just total chaos. And, you know, it's not, I mean, and I'm not belittling, but I'm not the kind of artist who like goes on a stage and just screams for a half hour and that's it, you know. I mean, they're compositions, and I do think that they could be accessible in some ways to people who like this kind of music, you know, the beats and things, right? Ambient stuff, I do acoustic stuff, whatever. But why don't I push for publication? Why don't I do so? You know, and I end up on Apple Music just being paired with artists that have nothing to do with me, and I can't get it changed because I don't have the push to get that changed. And I think it's really, you know, money and number of hits and algorithms and stuff, and I just don't want to deal with that stuff. So YouTube is, in a way, it's a really wonderful place for me, I feel, to do what I do, because it doesn't cost me, you know, excessive funds to do it. And I have a website that's still up, which I am maintaining. I just updated it because I paid for it for 2 years. When that expires, I'm not sure if I'm going to renew it or not. It's quite expensive, but what benefit does it have to me? I'm not a commercial artist. People do visit the site from time to time. They might discover some music. People use the contact form. that's what's useful. They find me online because it comes up, and then they contact me about something else. Like they didn't know how to get hold of me because they weren't on my Facebook page or something. And I quit X, Twitter, because I don't like it. So, the same goes for the writing, right? So am I going to self-publish it? I did. It's on my blog, and I'll include the link. And if anyone wants to read it, great. And if anyone wants to publish it, let me know. But I'm not going to sign a contract that's going to be like abusive, you know, to me. It'd be nice to make a little money from my writing. It'd be nice to make a little money from my music, but it's not the main goal. And I teach, and I can pay my bills from that usually. So I'm doing it right. So this is what I wanted to say about that. And I guess that's mainly the talk tonight. Yeah, I'm a bit tired these days. I've had some health things. I've lost a lot of weight. I'm not sure why. I'm trying to figure it out. Because I'm eating 3 meals a day now. I was for a while, was actually fasting. Not fasting, but I was doing intermittent fasting, which is like, only eating between a certain time and then not eating outside that time period. But I'm too thin and I can't do it, so I quit. I'm doing 3 meals a day. A little tired. My semester just ended. I've got tons of grading, but otherwise I've got time now. So I will probably do some more writing, and I'm gonna get this new album out, and I have some shows lined up this month, next month. The end of this month I have one more show on the 28th, as a part of a 2nd year anniversary event, a place called First Floor 2 in Koenji, Tokyo. And then next month I have a number of shows. I'm DJing, and I'm gonna DJ some of my new music as a bricolage that I'll create for that event, a special one. And I'm going to do some longer performances at the end of February and at the end of March, the following month. And then also I have a show on my birthday, which is it happened that way at Nepo, which is the place with the cool video. And I'm not going to do this Dark Shroud. I'm going to do Marc Lowe, and I'm going to do something different. I'm not sure yet. It's not going to be keyboard, and I'll use video backing because they use video there, but it's going to be something else. It might be more experimental, it might be more ambient, it might be more acoustic. I don't know, play the flute more. I might play the sanshin, the Japanese instrument I have, a string instrument. I'm planning on using that again. We'll see, that's how it is. And I didn't talk about politics. I didn't talk about all the crap going on in the world. I didn't talk about, that tonight, and I don't want to. It's not where I'm at now. I need to get away from that. I think part of the reason I'm so run down and not feeling well is because I'm thinking about that too much, and it brings me really down. Can't do anything about it. Matrix. Okay, so do what you do. That's, again, the other thing. It's not for money, then you just do it for you, and then you don't have to kind of answer to anybody. So that's my talk. It's nearly 40 minutes, and I changed the background. I actually talked about some of the same things. It's a slightly different talk, but that wall is just white, and that's because I'm using it for projections. Not frequently. I only did it once, actually, but I'm planning on doing a home live series at some point, or if a series or a long video, or maybe I'll film it in parts and then edit it all together like a long concert, or I don't know yet, but I'm going to eventually do with projections. And I may do some just acoustic stuff. Like in the afternoons, I'm going to have some time off from classes to do that now. And again, I want to write maybe the This Dark Shroud essay, maybe something else, some other things. I have things to talk about. I may talk about even like the bricolages like I did here, and the history behind them. But I've already kind of written an essay on my history music, so maybe it's time to write about something else. Maybe I'll write about non-music topic, relating it to music in some way, but and not politics. I mean, they're going to creep in, but in philosophy, right? Buddhist philosophy, or I studied Buddhism and Taoism in graduate school. So, and I just, by the way, finished classes today. I mentioned literature classes, David Bowie classes. I taught my final David Bowie courses this year, and maybe the last time, I don't know. It was a British culture British studies course that allowed me to teach David Bowie. Did 3 years in a row at the one university. The other university asked me to do a British culture course just out of the blue, and so I did David Bowie there too. But the next year I don't have any sections of British culture suddenly, so that may be the last. I don't know. But I'll be doing literature and creative writing next year as well. So I could do talks on creative writing. I could do talks on creativity a little bit more. I could do talks on literary things, literature, Japanese literature, American literature, world literature, anything. This doesn't have to be just music. We'll see. Any requests, let me know. I sound like an official YouTuber. Any requests, let me know in the comments, and be sure to hit the like button. I never say that stuff. It just seems commercial to me. Every video you watch, it's like, hit the like button before we get started. And I don't like doing that. It just feels too like a commercial. Thanks very much for watching, listening, those of you who are and do, and have a nice weekend. No, it's not. I don't have, see, I finished my classes, so Wednesday feels like the weekend to me tomorrow now, but I'm going to be grading all day. Have a nice week, and I'll see you all soon. And look out for the Angels of Chaos bricolage version in the coming days and their weeks. Thank you very much. Marc Lowe, Tokyo, Japan, alone as ever, hanging in. Thanks. Cheers.